Hi guys, and welcome to this video, which is all about magic. So I picked up the Armada magic deck, and I honestly don't really know a great deal about magic. What is in here is 59 cards, 5 tokens, and a rules booklet. So if you want to add magic to your games, this is the pack for you. And on the back, these optional rules and cards can be used with Armada. We'll add a sparkle of magic to your fleet with a new magic phase and a new layer of tactics and excitement. Contains spell books for Basilians, Orcs, Dwarves, Empire of Dust and Kingdoms of Men fleets. So, without further ado, let's crack her open. Okay. Oh, okay, it's all in a tray. Cool. Okay. So, there we go. Magic in Armada. I'm not going to read the stories. When building a fleet, each player may optionally purchase a single spellcaster as part of their overall cost of the fleet, paying the appropriate points cost as you would for a ship, flyer or upgrade. The spellcaster must be assigned to a main battleship in the fleet unless specified otherwise. The spellcaster remains on a selected ship for the entire game until it is destroyed. Okay, you can use an ID token to show which ship the spellcaster is on. Spellcasters do not affect the number of upgrades a ship may have, nor do they account for calculating the final cost of a ship with regards to crew level changes. The victory conditions for some scenarios require players to tally up the points for ships, flyers and upgrades to determine who has won, for example maritime patrol. The spellcaster will only grant points to the opposing player if they were destroyed during the game. Fair play. Tiers and spells. There are various tiers of spellcaster, which determines the degree of control a spellcaster has over their selection of spells, okay, known as their initial hand. Spellcasters of higher tiers are able to cast spells more easily than those of lower tiers, and are more likely to win the magic initiative to decide which player gets to cast magic first, but more on that later. So spellcasters, right, okay, so you can add a tier 1 spellcaster is 15 points, tier 2 is 20, tier 3 is 25, so they're not cheap. A player with a spellcaster will have their own battle deck constructed before the game by taking 20 spell cards listed on the appropriate faction spell book card and shuffle them all together. Battle decks consist of a mix of general spells and one spell specific spell unique to the faction being used. A player's battle deck should only be placed face down next to the ship card used. A player's battle deck should then be placed face down next to the ship card being used for the game. The remaining cards are not used. Okay. And then you form an initial hand. So tier 1 spellcasters draw 3 cards. Tier 2 draw 4 and discard 1. Tier 3 draw 5 and discard 2. You can have a maximum of 3 cards in your hand from your battle deck. So magic phase. So you roll for wind, 2 magic phase, then it's initiative. During the magic phase, any player with a spellcaster will get the chance to cast one or more of their spells. Ooh. If both players have a spellcaster, roll a d10 and add their spellcaster's tier to the result. The player who rolls highest can choose the seize the magic initiative and act first. The player with the magic initiative may choose to cast a spell or pass. Once the spell is resolved, the other player may do the same. If only one player is a spellcaster, they automatically have the initiative in the magic phase and may either cast a spell or pass. Once both players have either cast a spell or passed, each player must keep drawing cards from the respective decks until they have refilled their hand to its normal limit, usually 3 cards. If a player didn't attempt to cast a spell during the magic phase, they may choose to discard a card from their hand and refill. After the players have cast their spells and replenished their hands, the player moves to the normal initiative, running out of cards. When a player runs out of cards from the battle deck or the hand, they have spent all the power and their spellcaster is exhausted. The player may attempt to cast a spell any further. So right, okay, so you've run out of cards, your spellcaster's, he's had enough, he's knackered, he's going home. Casting a spell. To cast a spell from the hands, a player places a spell card they wish to use in front of them and reads out the effects of it. Okay, a spellcaster can always attempt to cast a spell, even if the ship is crippled, surrendered, or grappled. Oh, interesting. So even if you're surrendered, you can still cast magic out of that ship. Spells may target any ship in range, even grappled ship, with no skill test required. If a spell description mentions the casting ship, it is referred to the ship the spellcaster is casting a spell is currently assigned to. To cast a spell, the spellcaster must make a casting roll. All spells have a casting target on their card. To make a casting roll, the player must roll a d6 and add their spellcaster's tier to the result. The final result equals or exceeds the casting target. The spell is cast. Natural 1s always fail, natural 6s always succeed and can never be dispelled. If the casting roll fails, the spell is discarded and nothing happens. If the casting roll is successful, the effects of the spell are applied, unless the opponent dispels it. Okay. Taking a bird's eye view, line of sight, and aware, the caster using parts. Okay, so visibility is pretty much the standard. Flyers are always visible if they're within 12 of a spellcaster, regardless of terrain or other models. Beyond this, the normal rules apply. Dispelling magic. When a player declares they are casting a spell and attempts to successful casting roll, the opposing player may make an attempt to dispel it, unless they have rolled a natural 6. Dispelling may be attempted by either a dispel card or by sacrificing a spell card. Either way, dispelling is not guaranteed. Each card has a dispel power on it. Discard the card being used to attempt to dispel the roll and roll a d6. If the result equals or exceeds the dispel power listed on the card being used to make the dispel attempt, the spell is dispelled. It has no effects on the spell card. Okay? That's quite interesting. So you have to dispel a card so you sort of like, it's like a magical battery, isn't it? So you can cast and also dispel from it, but, make sure you keep those tactics roll. You've got 20 cards in that deck for an 8-turn game. Interesting. If a caster roll fails, the casting player can discard another spell card from their hand to re-roll the dice. The second result must be accepted. If the dispel roll fails, they can discard another card and re-roll the dice. So you can actually, the actual number of cards you've got is quite important then. In addition, once per turn, at any time, a player may discard a spell or dispel card from their hand to re-roll one die in any roll they have just made in the spell. What? In addition, once per turn, at any time, a player may discard a spell card or dispel card from their hand to re-roll one die in any roll they have just made for the spellcaster currently assigned ship. This may be a skill test, a shooting. Right, okay. So you can discard a card and re-roll a dice for that ship. That's pretty good, isn't it? Dead spellcaster. I best pay attention to this because my stuff dies all the time. If the ship that has a fleet spellcaster aboard is destroyed, the player may immediately attempt to reassign the spellcaster to the closest non-surrendered friendly ship or flyer, not a flyer, within 8. This ship must take a skill test. If successful, the spellcaster is rescued and reassigned to this ship. If the test is failed, or if no such ship exists, the spellcaster is destroyed. If the spellcaster is destroyed, the player must discard all of their remaining cards and may not draw any more. Okay. So you've got the spell cards, a spell book, and spell cards. So I think what we should do is have a look at the cards. So the first thing is the spell books. Now in there, there's a spell book for Basilians, Orcs, Dwarves, Empire of Dust, and Kingdoms of Men. And if we turn one over, it tells us basically what you're building your battle deck with. So a level 1 Kingdoms of Men wizard would have 2 dispel cards, 2 fireballs, 2 heals, 1 downpour, 2 chain lightning, 1 astral shield, 1 etheric gale, and 1 wind blast. And then obviously you've got level 2, they bring a bit more, and a level 3 bring a bit more. And that's your deck, basically, from what I can see. Yeah, really easy. Let's have a look. So that's Kingdoms of Men. It's really nice. Kingdoms of Men are getting stuff. But let's have a look at the main fleet. Okay, so Empire of Dust. There's not as many spells in there. That's quite interesting, but they get multiples. So they've got 3 dispels, 1 fireball, 3 chain lightnings, 2 astral shields, 2 etheric gale, 2 wind blast, 2 tidal surges. If you're level 2, so level 2 also gets a spiteful sylph, atrophy, scarab swarm, siren's lure, and winds of fate. I'm on a level 3 wizard, lads. I'm not even going to lie. However, let's have a look at some of the spells. Okay, so we're starting with the dispel card. They're really nice cards as well. They're really sort of like nice. You could put protects on if you want to. So this is a 4+ dispel card. Play it immediately after the opposing player has successfully cast a spell. Remember, you cannot try to dispel a spell that's been cast with a 6. Discard this card and then roll a d6. On a 4+, the spell is cancelled. There you go. That's a dispel card. Sort of like aggressive magic, I suppose. If you look at fireball, so that's what, 4+ to cast. Targets a single visible enemy ship or flyer within 8. The target suffers 3 points of damage. Additionally, every ship and flyer within 3 of the target suffers 3 points of damage. The casting ship does not suffer any damage. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So, not sort of groundbreaking, I suppose, is it? But it's cool. Etheric Gale, 4+ to cast. So they also have the dispel values on the bottom. So you see a dispel card there straight away as a 4+, where normal one's a 6+. Targets casting ship or any visible ship or flyer, friendly or enemy within 14. Increase the target's movement value by 1 until the end of the turn. Okay, that's pretty cool. You've seen the combinations. Chain Lightning. So Chain Lightning, 4+ to cast again. Target's casting ship. Okay. Draw a straight line from any point on the casting ship with a length of 14 and in any direction. Every ship and flyer, friend or enemy, whose base is at least partly under this line will suffer 3 points damage, regardless of visibility. The casting ship does not suffer damage. Downpour. Target's casting ship or a visible friendly ship within 8. Remove any blaze markers on the target. Oh, yes! I'm going to make it rain. And heal on 4-up. Target's casting ship or a visible friendly ship or flyer within 8. Remove 5 points of damage from the target as it previously suffered. Yeah. I'm not saying you have to have a wizard, but I think if one side had a wizard, I think you would pretty much need a wizard. They're pretty powerful. Let's have a quick look at the race-specific spells. Okay, so if we look at Bravery, which is the Kingdoms of Men, race-specific spell. It's level 3 spell, so also it's a Dispel of 4+ and a cast of 6+. Okay, but don't forget you're adding your level on, aren't you? Okay, target's casting ship. Remove any surrendered marker from this ship and from every friendly ship within 8. In addition, place a marker on each affected ship as a reminder of this spell. During this turn, every ship with a marker will automatically pass any nerve test it's required to make. Remove all of the markers during the next end phase. Wow. Yeah, that speaks for itself. Particularly for me, it's nice to have always surrenders. Fulgria's Fury. Okay, so obviously this is your dwarf one. Targets the casting ship. Place a marker on this ship and on every friendly ship within 8 as a reminder of this spell. During this turn, every ship with a marker can use its engines in every move step. Rather than only once. Additionally, it will pass automatically any skill test to avoid becoming damaged or grounded. When using the optional wind rules, the following rules apply. Any ship with a marker can move up to full speed with it when the direction of the wind would normally make it less. Remove all the markers during the end phase. Wow! Using engines at every step is absolutely incredible. You have dwarf ships pulling donuts. Here we go. Empire Dust. Scarab Swarm. Targets the casting ship. Every enemy ship and flyer within 8 of the casting ship suffers 3 points of damage. In addition, affected ships reduce their current speed by 1. If a ship is already anchored or grounded, it suffers D3 damage instead. That's pretty cool. Like a scarab bomb in the middle of your fleet. Orcs. Green Rage. I think this is going to be brutal. Targets the casting ship. Place a marker on the ship and on every friendly ship within 8 as a reminder of this spell. During this turn, every ship with a marker that attempts to ram with an enemy ship will take no damage if it occurs. Enemy ships will suffer damage as usual. Remove all of the markers during the next end phase. Wow. So you can ram with no. Wow. I think I'll definitely be trying to dispel that. Oof. And Basilians. It's small but mighty, maybe. Blessings of Saint Selena. Celia? Okay. Target's casting ship. Remove 5 points of damage from the ship and from every friendly ship and flyer within 8. Yeah, fair play. I mean, that does what it says on the tin, doesn't it? Cool. So that gives you a flavour. Obviously, new fleets, we're assuming that these cards will come with them, or maybe another supplement. I don't know. But I think it's really nice that the Kingdoms of Men are included in here, and every fleet gets magic straight away that's currently available. Really cool. I can't wait to use this. I think it's going to be really cool addition to the game. And last but by no means least, we have some new magical upgrades in the pack. Now, these are new magical upgrades available to all fleets. They follow all the normal limitations for selecting them. So what can we have? An Arcane Library. If there is a spellcaster assigned to this ship, the maximum number of cards allowed in your hand is increased by 1 to a total of 4. Your initial hand is still 3 cards, however. That's 5 points. Power Dome. If there is a spellcaster assigned to this ship, the range of all of your spells will increase by 4. Ooh. In order to determine the main target for a spell, for example, Fireball can be cast on targets with 12 away rather than 8, but the 3 inch damage area around the target will not be increased. Yes, you increase your range, not the splash damage. That's wow. Spellcaster's Apprentice. Mickey Mouse. If there's a spellcaster assigned to the ship, you're allowed to cast 2 spells per turn. Oh, what? This second spell must be cast by the Spellcaster's Apprentice immediately after both players have cast or passed following normal rules, but before the refill of their hands. If both players have this upgrade, resolve the spells in magical initiative order. The Spellcaster's Apprentice is tier 1 and can only cast spells of level 1. That's cool though, isn't it? Come with me, my apprentice. Dispelling Beacon. If there is a spellcaster assigned to the ship, you receive a +1 modifier when attempting to dispel any spell targeting this ship or any ship, friend or enemy within 8. Very cool. 5 points. They're not cheap, are they, these upgrades? That's really good, and the power dome's really good. Magical Bane. While within 8 of the ship, every spellcaster will suffer an additional -1 modifier on their casting rolls. Fair enough. That, yeah, does what it says in the tin. Yeah, cool. So you could spend a lot of points. These ships could be worth a lot of points, couldn't they, by the time you finished? But hey, we'll have to see how they play. And there we go. And there's your little tokens, Apprentice, and so on and so forth. So there we go, guys. That's Magic in Kings of War Armada. Interesting. Myself and Rob are excited to try this out and add it into a game. So games going forward, I think we're going to play some bigger points and get some flyers and some magic in, stuff like that. So, however, yeah, get your magic wands out, and wherever you are in the world, stay safe, stay well, and happy hobbying.